1,000 years have passed since the Taurian coalition destroyed the demon lords of the Abyss and were able to banish their fiendish presence from this realm for good. Not only that, but an equal amount of time has passed since the betrayal of the King Arcfey's son that led to the Great Fey Civil War that was, of course, preyed upon by the Dark One, causing the rotting and destruction of the Arcfey. In their absence, the chains of elemental chaos set their grip upon the world in order to rebalance the power of life and death in the material plane. From this new connection with the chains of elemental chaos was born the elemental lords, causing the world to burn asunder, creating great fissures in the earth and causing the elements themselves to rise up across the world. In their wake, we know that the lords of fire and water are hell-bent on the destruction of humankind, while the motives of the earth and air lords are yet to be discovered. The elemental lords of fire and water have begun assaults across the world, taking hold of their own domains in vast armies. This fracturing of the world has borne wars and destruction that have caused a great many of changes in a great many of ways. Kingdoms have risen and fallen. Some kingdoms have been forgotten entirely. And with this great sundering, a new age dawns. After the defeat of the demon lords, the kingdom of Northland began to change. Its people saw the great power and success of the paladin soldiers on the front against the Wraith Lord, and on the front against the demonic armies. Their society has taken on a new zealous trait, giving paladins and clerics the highest honors of society. With their faith held high, they march out in the name of the Dawn Star, led by the great Barixius line, Dawnbreaker in hand. The past 1,000 years have not been kind to the dwarves. They have seen dispute and fracture amongst them. The great dwarven coalition under the High King of Stonerun has fractured to but a handful of mountains and clans. Deeprun has completely separated itself from Stonerun, befriending instead the orcs of the Bloodrider clan. Stoneheim has also seen itself joining instead with the Topfinger halflings in a democratic technocracy based off of skill in craftsmanship. And lastly, Frost Peak has fallen at the hands of goblins, dark elves, and aberrations, reduced to nothing but empty halls. With the mission to rediscover the lost halls of creation ended and abandoned for many years, it was not until quite recently that the brother of the Lord of Deeprun decided to take up the mantle once again. Now tension begins to brew, as the other dwarven kingdoms will not stand for one of the others making it there first, to the place of their creation. With the Arcfey destroyed and Vesalinar crushed and turned into Dark Elves by the Dark One, the Sylvandarii had to find an alternate power source to the Feywild, turning to the magics of the recently empowered elements and to the primeval forces for solace. They were saved, the Aegadari utilizing a great arcane explosion near Asar to create the Nexus Pool to save their people. And the Duldrasil, quickly taking in all remaining refugees from Vesalinar and then breaking off a piece of the continent itself and creating the Mage City of Daldrenar. But not all is lost. You would be right to assume that with all this bad happening, one good thing must have come out of it. And you'd also be correct to assume that if anyone found it, it would be the halflings. A rare ore called elementium can be mined from the fissures created by this sundering. Its market value is so immense due to its incredibly magical properties, used for things such as magic spells, magic items, and simply raw power itself. Something like this has never been seen before. The legacy of Sinbad Frost took up his prophecy of sailing north to find the Forgotten Land. Taking the new last name, Valtierson, in honor of the fallen Archfey, they lead their people north as rulers of the Guardian people. Looking to create a storm empire, they found Straldenheim, a land of snow-capped mountains and dense, lush forests. They declared it the seat of their power, and united frost giants, storm giants, and Guardians alike in what is now known as the Empire of Storm. With the Wraithlord defeated, the land formerly known as the Waste became the Wild Guard. A frozen land filled with living creatures once again, all living because of the spire of the Elemental Warden at its heart. Alongside the destruction of the Wraithlord, the Onyx Order has set out to make a living in this changed world. Being outcasts, they have had an unending struggle with the living races of the world, operating their floating citadel around the world as mercenaries and hired guards. They have long searched for another people to ally themselves with, and they have found that in another group of outcasts, the Bloodrider clan. The Bloodrider clan was set to pass into history 200 years ago, when Mystaria, the human kingdom, reformed the ancient order and decided to crush the Bloodriders once and for all. However, Mystaria underestimated the strength of this orcish clan and was caught off guard by their new allies, the dwarves of Deeprun, aiding the orcs in fighting off the Order's armies. However, this time the orcs pushed back. They charged deep into the heart of Order lands and burned down those old Order cities, rebuilding their new orcish ones atop the smoldering remains. After 13,000 years of exile, they reclaimed their ancient homeland. On the continent of Sarian to the south, the kingdom of Fralcaron has suffered at the hands of Dark Elves since the destruction of Vasalinar. With unending raids, small battles, and constant abductions, Fralcaron has found itself getting steadily weaker as they are slowly tapped of their resources. With the fear of a real invasion coming, they have turned to the one resource that they are not yet short on: gold. With officials in the towns across their kingdom, they have funded these officials to hire mercenaries to fight for the kingdom in order to keep their people safe. With no army, it is all they can muster. Gunslingers, monster hunters, and rangers are the last line of defense between the people of Fralcaron and the Dark Elves. The Anthica Ocean has exploded into a massive naval combat between the Red Isles and the Four Kingdoms. With the two peoples finally putting their internal differences aside and ending their civil wars that had racked their people for millennia, they have instead decided to go to war with one another. With a new, bountiful source of islands in the Anthica Ocean, the two have fought a grueling and long naval conflict for the past 100 years in order to decide who will keep the new land. As a result of this new war, a trade hub of all races has popped up. They call it Fronteras. With the Lord of Deeprun's brother restarting the mission to uncover the halls of creation, the Kingdom of Stonerun has also restarted their mission as well. As both gained ground, it slowly evolved into a race, and shortly after further involved into conflict, until the point at which war was declared. With the two dwarven kingdoms at war, they turned to their allies. Deeprun returning to their orcish friends, reigniting the warband, consisting of 3 of the 4 orcish clans, themselves, the Sylvan Elves, and the Onyx Order. Stonerun turning to their enlightened allies, the Kingdom of the Dawnstar, and their Goliath friends to the north, forming the Exalted Alliance. With war breaking out between the 2 largest factions on Torius, eyes begin to turn to the conflict, and powerful people begin to whisper. If it is indeed true that the dwarves are racing to the halls of creation, a time will come when they will want to enter the war. Whoever makes it to the halls of creation first would be undisputed in their supremacy over all others in the world. And as all eyes look to the conflict, the people of the world prepare for a war, for tensions run high across the world. And this conflict is waiting to explode.